What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a deck profile here on my YouTube channel. This past weekend, at time of recording, we got back from the Road to Nationals, where we ended up taking the whole thing down with Dorinthea Iron Song, or Dorinthea Chainslayer, as you're gonna see in the profile. Yeah, the event was fun. We had about 30 people. Big shout out to the store. Big shout out to the judge and TO. All fantastic people, and it was a great, fantastic, amazing event. I've had a lot of people hit me up after seeing that I won with Dorinthea. She's kind of been a little bit off the radar for these roads, and have been asking me for the spice. And so I decided to whip up a deck profile and kind of go through my thought process when it comes to playing the deck. So without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, so I don't have a good setup for webcam. I'd much rather do this over webcam. I feel more comfortable with the physical cards, but I don't have that, so we've just got to do it over Tabletop Simulator. So here is the entire deck. Here's everything. Here's the whole 80 cards laid out. And so I'm going to take you through my thought process as quickly as I can, but I am going to go ahead and explain everything there is to know about Dorinthea. So we'll talk about the easy, basic stuff fairly quickly, but then we'll move on to some more thoughts, personal preferences, ideas, so on and so forth. So start off, let's go for the hero. The main gameplay loop of Dorinthea, and I'll scoot this over just a smidge, is our goal is to swing with our sword so impressively awesome that we hit with it, and that means we get to swing with it an additional time. We're breaking the rules of the game. Normally, we only get to swing with your weapon one time per turn. Dorinthea breaks the rules, and she swings twice. And she gets rewarded from that second swing by every time that I successfully hit a second time with my sword gets stronger on the next turn. And it gets stronger by just a little bit, but that little bit is enough to really turn the tide in battle. We'll get more into that as we go on. On to the equipment. These are the only 4 pieces of equipment that we run, and the equipment is in importance in this order. We don't run any no rune armor. We don't run any the tunic. We don't run the tunic that happened to have won. Sag. We don't even we don't even run the tunic. But this is the equipment. The bolters give go again. The bracers push my damage threshold up by 1, so whenever I'm swinging the second time with the blade, I can swing for 4 as opposed to 3, which is a really important number in our deck. Courage of Blade Hold is a fantastic just pop off, go crazy turn, and then Arcanite Skullcap is a big blocky boy. Just blocks for 1,000,000. Sometimes the Arcane can save you in like a really clutch moment, late, the very last turn of the game, but the reason we're not playing the Tunic and the reason we're not playing No Rune Armor, honestly, is because all of these cards, they block. I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 extra health that I get to play the game with. 10 if I want to pop the Courage for that defensive play. I just got so much vitality. And this deck, I feel, the character is one of the most aggressive characters in the game. I'm not playing a lot of defense here because I feel that I can push out more damage on average turns 1, 2, and 3 than almost any other deck. Honestly, up there with Ninja, depending on how you play the matchup. So, with that, let's go ahead and we have the game plan. Swing the sword twice, block with the equipment, use the equipment intelligently. Let's talk about deck choices. Before we get into the reactions, what people really associate Dorinthea with, let's talk about the actions first, because I think that the thing that makes this deck is not the reactions, but the actions that you play beforehand. I'm gonna get rid of this top menu because I hate it. Okay, so let's talk about the crazy good actions. Steelblade Supremacy. This card is draw power, it's bonus damage. It's too good for its own good. Anytime that this card hits the board, my opponent instantly goes into panic mode, and they don't get tricked into playing the game the way that I want them to. And so anytime that you see Steelblade Supremacy, 9 times out of 10, people just want to just jam it down on the board. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's just get it. Let's swing it. What this ends up happening is that Steelblade Supremacy just doesn't like do anything. It's just a card that like guarantees that your thing gets blocked, which if that's the game plan for that turn, this is the card to do it. This is the card that does probably the best. Stillblade Supremacy guarantees that your sword swings will be blocked, and so we have to play around that and trick them a little bit in order to get real value out of this card. The next most important or big power play action that we have is Spoils of War. Big shout out to Crew Unlimited letting me play this deck to full power. Spoils of War says that your next weapon attack gets +2 for sure, and go again for sure. Spend 1 to guarantee go again, which is fantastic. Pushing over that 3 damage break point of the average block being 3. Into 5, meaning they have to give me 2 cards. If they give me the 2 cards, or if they don't give me the 2 cards, I guarantee get to swing one more time. This card is absolutely fantastic and is a threat on board. Up next, we've got Hit and Run, and we're playing 9 Hit and Runs. We're playing all 3 of all 3 colors of our Hit and Runs, because this card is just a technically weaker version of Spoils of War. Honestly, I like seeing Hit and Run in my hand more than I like seeing Spoils of War. If Spoils of War came in the other 2 colors, I don't know that I would not play Hit and Run. I would probably cut the extra Spoils of War for these extra versions of the next card we'll talk about. But Hit and Run says that guaranteed my next weapon has go again. So a really easy threat for my opponent. I play the Hit and Run. If they block my weapon swing, they have to block for at least 6 because of the cool reactions, which we'll get to here in a bit, which means they're going to be discarding half their hand size for my 0 cost card to like really for me not to abuse my 0 cost card. If they decide to not block and I pitched a blue on my turn, I play Hit and Run, my attack gets go again, I swing with my sword, I've pitched a blue, I have 2 resources floating, 3 cards still in hand, 2 cards still in hand. I just use the Brave Forge Bracers to pump my second swing up, and if they are going to block again, they once again have to give me 2 more cards to even get past that 3 damage breakpoint, or a card and a piece of armor, which early enough in the game is hyper relevant. We really want to strip that armor as quickly as we can, because later on in the game, it just means they have to block from their hand. If they're blocking from their hand, that means they're not killing us. If they're not killing us, we're killing them. Up next, action-wise, we've got Warrior's Valor. This card is the poor man's Spoils of War. I play 3 red, 1 yellow, 3 blue. Honestly, this card could probably be cut for something else, but I have found the yellow breakpoint being useful, being fine. If we were to have any sort of tech choices that you want to mess around with numbers, this would be the card that I suggest, one of the cards I suggest messing around with. But yeah, even the Blue Warrior's Valor has so much value just because that +1 breaks the 3 breakpoint, which means they have to give me 2 cards or a card and an armor. It's good. It's really good. And on hit go again just spooks the crap out of people. Normally this card gets blocked for 9, which is like really which means that I'm getting 3 cards out of their hand, which means that next turn I'm just gonna swing for 6 again, or maybe even 9 again. It's just ultra powerful. And then next we've got Sharpened Steel. I used to be really down on this card. I used to be really down on this card, but this card is very good, like exceptionally good while you're ahead, and it's honestly really good while you're behind. If I've got a Sharpened Steel and a red card in my hand, that's all that I've been given. My opponent played a Command and Conquer late in the chain, and I was forced to block it because of some whatever reason. I didn't have the armor to do so on and so forth. Sharpened Steel and a red is a 6 damage swing, which is good enough, especially if you have to keep counters, which means it's a 3+3 for the 3 from Sharpened, 3 from the sword plus counters, which means they might have to block out a bunch. Playing a 0-cost card, pitching a red, and making my opponent block with 3, maybe 3 cards in an armor, feels great. It feels really good. And so being able to just abuse this 0-cost +3, fantastic card. You could cut one of them if you wanted to for sideboard slots, and my sideboard is really jank, and we'll get to that here in a second. Plow Through, the newest tool that we have from Monarch. This card I am very high on, but it gets sided out depending on matchups. Plow Through says my next weapon attack this turn gets +3 damage, and if it's blocked by an attack action card, it gets an additional +1. We've now pushed up to our 4 number. The number 4 is incredibly important in this deck, which means that they have to think about how they want to block the deck even more than they already do. A lot of people, whenever they think about Dorinthea, it's all about combat tricks, right? It's all about changing, moving, and thinking about what could they have in hand. I personally think that Dorinthea is even more scary when you have all the puzzle pieces and you look at it and you scratch your head and you go, huh, that is a 10 damage sword swing if I block with this card in my hand. Yeah, I'll just take the 9. Great, you took a fourth of your health in one turn. I'm down. I'll swing the sword again. Oh, you want to try and block that one? Here's my combat trick now. Really exceptionally strong. But yeah, it gets cited out in some matchups, specifically the mirror. But yeah, in pretty much every other matchup, it's pretty relevant and it's really live. On to the reactions. We've got obviously her specialization, Singing Steel Blade. I've seen a lot of people online only play 2 of this card, or they mainboard 2 and then side the other one. I think because of how absolutely goated Twinning Blade and Glint the Quicksilver is, I think we gotta play it at a 3 of. Very rarely would I ever want to side this card out. I just don't think it's worth it. Pay 1 to go get whatever you need. It's great. And pushes over that +1 damage, right? There's plenty of times where somebody will give me 12 cards and I can't quite get to that 13 state. Well, Singing Steel Blade helps me get there because it itself gives +1. Twinning Blade. Pound for pound, the best card in the deck. I think that this card is amazing, and it is the thing that pushed Dorinthea from being okay and frustrating to frustrating, maybe unfair. Once you get experienced enough in this matchup, I've always said that this deck has lots of layers when you're learning it. It has the layer of you absolutely demolish noobs because they don't know how to block Dorinthea correctly. And then they figure out how to block Dorinthea correctly, and then you'll never win another game until you figure out that they figured out how to block you, and then you get to mess them up. And then they figured out that you figured out, and it's this constant going back and forth. Twinning Blade puts a stop to that madness. They overblock your 3 damage blade with 9 after you've played a hit and run, and you just Twinning Blade. And you say, no. I'm swinging again, and you've already exhausted all of your blocking options. Now I'm going to play Steel Blade Supremacy. I'm going to play another hit and run to get a bunch of damage, and we're going to pop off. This card, in conjunction with Glint giving go again, Hit and Run giving go again, Spoils of War giving go again, Time Snap Potion giving the action point. Wowzers! This one card has changed up the dichotomy of how this deck is played, and the dichotomy of how you have to play against it. I won more games against Chain with late game Twinning Blades than ever before. It's crazy. On a Glint, go again. If they block with a hand, draw a card. It pitches for blue. It blocks for 3. It's a 0 cost. Boom. It is good in every zone of the game. Don't be afraid if you have no on-board go again to just jam it, even if they haven't reprised, because we need to swing we want to use our character, right? So in order to do that, we got to have the go agains. Hopefully, we've got go again from like hit and run or whatever. 9 times out of 10, unless you're like absolutely feeling like they got to top deck the nuts. If something already has go again, don't burn your go again slots. They're the most precious resource in our deck. Onto the attack reactions, we've got 3 Out for Blood red, 3 Stroke of Foresight red. This is just pay 1 +3 mana, or +3 damage, excuse me. +1 to the next one is very good. As good in a different way as draw a card, take any card from your hand, put it on top or bottom. There's lots of times where you will draw the card, realize that it's like a bad red card. Honestly, I put Steel Blade Supremacy on the bottom of my deck a lot of the time. Like, this card is, once again, too good for its own good. But if it's like a rad blue card, like a blue overpower, I go, yeah, I'm gonna keep that on top. That's gonna fuel my whole turn, and then we guarantee we'll draw it on the next. 1 blue Out for Blood. This is another card that I've already having come back from the event. This card's coming out for just a different card, which if you want to know, let me know down in the comments down below. This is just the list. Yeah, Out for Blood is a super duper scary card. +1 for 1 is not amazing, but paying that blue for the whole turn is relevant. 3 Iron Song Response red. This card is one of the easiest side out cards. It was not in my deck a majority of the tournament, and we'll explain why at the very end of the day when I give my my recap of my event and how I beat 4 out of the 5 chains that I played at the event. And I'll explain my mentality when going into the match. But this is a 0 cost if they block with a card from my hand, +3. Really good when they block. If they're just not blocking you, then this card is the most dead that it can be. And so it just gets sided out in matchups that we just don't think they're going to be blocking. Oh, we're also playing blue ones because I actually think the blue ones are better. One, they pay for a whole turn. Two, they push over that damage by one. It's just really, really, really unexpected. There was a turn where I fought against Dash, and I played a blue Iron Song response out of my hand, knowing that I had one of these +3s available to me. And because I pushed over for just the one, he threw down a huge defense reaction, I think a red unmovable from hand. And I was like, oh, I can save this +3 for later when I know he doesn't have the unmovable. On to the big heavy hitter defense reactions of the deck, or attack reactions, excuse me. We're playing one route mainboarded. I like singular route because of the fact that they have to respect it as soon as they see it. If you block with route, they go, huh, well, I've seen one, I'm gonna see the other. And so they're constantly playing this mental gymnastics of, if they're a deck that doesn't block, like Chain, I don't put the second route in because pay 2 for +3 is not amazing. And route's only good at either keeping counters on your Dawnblade. So I'm swinging for 9, they block for 12, you route +3, and then put a card back in their hand. Or on the very last turn of the game, and they have to give you everything, and you go, just kidding, I've got you. This is essentially +6, right? Card's messed up. Card steals games for no reason. But because people are playing this level of, I know how to lose, I know how to win, I know how to block, I know how to not block, route actually loses value against really good players. And so that's why I've opted to play only one of it, but I have decided to play 3 red overpower. Big shout out to Matt Rogers. I was not high on this card, and then I jammed it into my deck, and it could be top 5 cards in the deck, easy. Being able to pay 3 for +6 is super good when everybody's doing +3 math, right? They'll block just enough, and you go, actually, I'm gonna mollywop you, or even just the +4, right? They'll block with a defense reaction from Arsenal, and then you go, no, actually, I am gonna get +4. I am gonna get this blade swing in. It is a 3 cost. And that sucks, but we're also playing the 3 blue overpower because it has that magic number 4 on it as well if they've blocked from hand. And we have enough blue pitches to pay for stuff. So it's fine. This card steals games. I will say, guys, don't put this in your arsenal. This is the one card we're not allowed to put in our arsenal. We just can't do it. It will stay there for the entire game. The only time that we're allowed to put this card in our arsenal is if we are above 15 life and they are beneath 10 life. I could even stretch that if I'm above 20 life and they're beneath like 10 life. We're allowed to put this in our arsenal. Besides that, don't do it. It will be stuck there forever. Same thing with this card. Don't put this card in your arsenal either. This card is not good in your arsenal. Onto the attacks and items. We're only playing a singular attack, and that is a singular Nourishing Emptiness. Being a 5-hand size character with a arsenal as warrior is one of the scariest things your opponent can look at, and because of this unconditional go again from hit and run and / or spoils of war and / or time snap, being able to play it after a chain is really, really good, and a fun little combo. So hit and run says that your next attack this turn gets +3 if you've attacked with a weapon. So let's say that you hit and run, you swing with the sword, they decide that they are going to block and you can't swing with the weapon again. You can just play another hit and run to give it bonus damage, 1, 2, 3. And then swing with Nourishing, and it's got that bonus damage and has Dominate. So even if they've got plenty of armor, it's very possible you're still going to make this on-hit trigger work, which, once again, 5-hand size Dorinthea with an arsenal is one of the scariest things you can look at in the game. I've seen a lot of people be like, ask, yo, why aren't you playing 2 of this card? You want to see this as early as possible? Yeah, but the second one is absolutely terrible later on in the game. And if you are winning the game via the counters, this card is a trap to play. It's actually the same reason that we're not playing Command and Conquers. Command and Conquers is really good in Command and Conquer is an amazing card. Let's not get that twisted. I'm not trying to dismiss Command and Conquer's usefulness. But Command & Conquer is a trap if you are winning the game counter-wise, because you don't want to not swing with the sword as many times as you can because you've all this value you've built up. So with that said, if you are not winning the game counters-wise, Command & Conquer is the best option that you have. I'll play hit and run, I'll swing with a sword, they'll block for 6 or they won't block, I'll jam Command & Conquer down their throat and blow up their arsenal. And they didn't have the defense reaction on the second sword swing that they thought was coming for 4 damage. So Command & Conquer is really, really good. If you can find slots in the deck and you want to play that, it's fine. It's just another red card for me, and I think it's a bit of a trap to play. But seriously, test it out, and if you like it, let me know. 1 energy potion. We were playing more. I know Matt Rogers was playing more in his list. I just wanted to beat ass, and I feel like I have to be more aggressive, specifically in the chain matchup. The only reason to really play energy potion is it says if I have to block, it turns any red cards in my hand into yellow cards, right? I'm allowed to block with a single red card, and this becomes a yellow card. Or if I'm winning the game, this card threatens rout for the rest of the game. I put this card down, and I say, if I have a rout, I swing with the Dawnblade, and you're at 3, you've got to give me 9, or else Energy Potion, 1 card kills you. And so that's just like a really, really scary fact. Time Snap Potion is just another copy of your Refraction Bolters, and you should treat it as such. Using your Bolters on like the first instance that you can is a bad move. We want to hold these bolters for as long as possible. Anytime that we have an on-board go again, even if it's play blue hit and run, we want to spend that resource rather than spend the on-board, because there's going to be turns where I draw triple Steelblade Supremacy and a route and go, well, I could have a turn if I had go again, but I don't. And so having a second copy of these bolters as an action that is telegraphing my moves just a little bit is really, really strong. It's also really good on a courage turn, right? So a lot of times we pop our bolters a little bit early, and courage means that I don't have to play one of these cards to start off my combo. Normally I can pitch them in order to play my cool other cards like Steelblade Supremacy, so on and so forth. Moving on to the sideboard. So yeah, this is the main board. This is 60 cards. This is 60 big, beautiful cards. And there's only 1 card that I'm looking to replace, and we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, 60 big, beautiful cards. This is the main board that I would play in 99% of my matchups. If I was doing any just regular old testing, this is probably what I would just play. Somebody wanted to sit down and play a casual game, this is the 60 I'm presenting. Honestly, I think that you should try this list out and see how you like it. A couple things of note: there's no Iron Song Determination. It's a yellow card, blocks for 3+1, and gives your sword swing dominate. I feel that card is good in 2 spots. Number 1, it is good at keeping counters on the Dawnblade, and number 2, just like with Rout, it's only good on the last turn of the game. A lot of times people want to combo that card with Steelblade Supremacy, but I actually feel like that's just playing too many cards onto the board for not enough resources. I would rather have Spoils of War, right? When I didn't have 3 copies of Spoils, Iron Song Determination was a great card. I feel like Sharpened Steel just like does a better job. And the way that I look at the gameplay loop of this character is it's my goal to threaten taking 3 cards out of your hand every single turn. And Iron Song Determination says that you physically can't give me 3 cards every turn. You can't. I can only get to swing my sword twice. More maybe if I have Twinning Blade. But you can't block everything. And I would much rather swing a 3 damage move and you give me 3 cards out of your hand, blocking 9, and me just Arsenal pass and feel good about pitching a card, swinging a card, than getting in this like poke damage and possibly building a counter for my opponent just to try and blow me out next turn. It's not that amazing. It's not that amazing. Into the sideboard. So we've got 3 red Dauntless. Anytime that we fought a deck with any good defense reactions. Actually, you know what? I think it's a good time to talk about the tournament experience, right? So we drove 8 hours up to the Chicago area to go play in this tournament. I live in Omaha, Nebraska, so it was a big, huge, long drive. Me and 3 other buddies. Big shout-outs to the Omaha crew. I made this deck because the week prior, I had played Prism, and I was feeling real down about myself. I went 1-4, which is the worst record that I've ever had in a card game at a big event ever, right? Big event, right? Something substantial, something that matters. I always go even, roughly even, right? One below, one above. 1 and 4 was really, really rough, which I don't want to talk about that. It's the Dorinthea video. So I decided to go back to my original deck of Dorinthea, and I was like, I just need to find something that beats Chain consistently enough to make me feel okay about the matchup. And I found this list, and I was just eating my local Chain. I was just eating him alive. There was just nothing he could do about it. And so with less than a week practice, I was like, let's just make a couple changes and just jam out this event. And so when it comes to sideboarding, these Dauntlesses came in against anybody who played any defense reactions. So I played against Chain round 1 in the event, and I lost the matchup, but it was incredibly, incredibly close. We were both at like less than a 5 vitality. He was able to catch me with one more thing, probably something with a little bit of extra arcane, because I'm just not running any arcane barrier in my kit besides Skullcap. And as you can see, there's not a ton of blue in here to support that. And so it happens. The next round, I fight Chain. I make a couple adjustments inside of my sideboarding, and we go for it. Next round, Chain, the 3rd Chain in a row. I beat him too. 4th round, Chain. We fight Chain for the 4th round in a row, and we won. So 1 Chain loss, 3 Chain wins in round. My last round going into it, we fight a Katsu. We fight Ninja, the 2nd best deck, promising deck in the format. And we win that one as well. It was such a clutch play. We ended up, she decked out. She ended up drawing only 3 cards for turn on the turn that I was allowed to, I got the killer. Unbelievable game. Crazy, crazy good player. Into Top Guts, we get 6th, and we fight in our top 8, another Chain. And we beat them with the most textbook, beautiful 20-blade play I've ever seen. It was phenomenal. I could have made like a combo video about how good it was. The next round, we fight Dash, which really pushed me to my mental limits. And then in my in finals, we fought Bolton, who ended up being Swiss champ. And so he won all the way up until finals, in which case I bested him. He didn't have as much Dorinthea practice as he probably should have, but and I've played a bit of Bolton, and I really kind of had a razor lock solid game plan going into the whole event, not just necessarily that one. So now that I've explained my day, I didn't fight Guardian, I didn't fight the mirror match, which this deck is, I think, honestly afraid of, and I didn't fight Viserai, who can just accidentally just, you know, nuke you. Especially this deck, we don't play arcade. And so there were a couple, mainly Guardian, that was missing from my experience. So make sure that as you were playing this deck, you were testing against those other ones. So anyways, sideboard. Dauntless came in anytime that I needed to play more aggressively, and so it was either I took out the plow throughs for Dauntless because it's the same +3, but it makes their defenses harder, or I took out the Iron Song responses. And this is probably the clutchest thing. Oh, excuse me, the clutchest thing that I did all day was I took these cards out versus Chain, because the Chains that I was fighting, anytime that I practiced against Chain, he just wouldn't block me until the turn that mattered. And so these cards just got locked in my hand and were bad. I was missing out on that 3 damage for my card. And so I just put this in. Chain does not play very many, if any, defense reactions. And so this card was just pay 1 for +3. Fantastic. Pay 1 for another, an eighth of your health because of 3 +3 with the sword swing. So, like, that felt great. We played Sink Blows. We jammed this card in on top. We never took anything out for it. We just played a 63 card deck. And we would play it versus Chain because we need to stop his on-hit effects, specifically the sword. If he is allowed to swing with his sword and keep poking us and getting that rune chant, eventually we will die. Having 1 card to just stop the sword was fantastic. It was a beautiful arsenal card. Really, really good. And there's another on-hit ability that mattered in Chain that I can't remember. I guess it also stopped, like, important plunder run turns. Yeah. But this card was really, really good. 9 times out of 10, we wouldn't play it. We also play it versus Bravo because if you notice in my sideboard, I'm actually just not playing Steelblade Shunt. I think Shunt is really good, but you're not allowed to play Courage of Bladehold. And in order to race the defensive matchups, I think you have to have Courage and a solid Stinging Steelblade, Twinning Blade, Glint the Quicksilver-esque turn in order to steal that game back. And so we're not playing whatever that card is. It's on screen right now. I'll put it up. Man, Shunt, Steelblade Shunt. Wow. Route. Here's that second route. If we absolutely feel like they're going to be blocking a ton, we put the route in. At one point versus the Dash player, he blocked with an unmovable, pitching a card, and I routed the unmovable back to his hand. I said, nah, I'm going to hit you for this. And then he looked at his hand and went, well, this other card isn't blue, so I guess I will be taking it. And then I got to swing again, and it was an item. He couldn't do anything. So I put that back. The one issue was I did give him a red unmovable that he got to put in his arsenal next turn, but we crossed that bridge when we got there. But this card, if they block a ton, it can mess up their block math. If you want to play the second one. Snag. This was in here exclusively for the, obviously, the chain matchup. This card sucked. Don't play this card in your deck. It is a 3-cost, which is great. Our goal was just to take out some other 3-cost cards, maybe Time Snap, maybe one Iron Song Response, and just jam these snags in. They just weren't worth it. They don't block. They're only good late in the, like, after turn 5. And our goal with this deck is to race Chain and have him at 12 health by the end of his turn 3. I've taken Husk. He's down to 12. And I'm just putting on so much pressure that he never gets to that turn 5 Riftbind where this card is actually relevant. And so we'll just never get to that stage of the game. So it's just not good enough. And then lastly, the spiciest thing is we're playing 2 Wounded Bull, 2 Raging Onslaught, and 2 Barraging Broadhide. Exclusively because of Prism. The reason that I had gotten off this deck initially is I think that this deck has one of the worst Prism matchups of all time. I think this deck cannot handle Prism even a little bit. Luckily for me, before the event, I did not test against Prism, and I put these in about 12 hours before the event started. So right before we left on our trip, to the point where I could not find 3 copies of Raging Onslaught, even though it's the best of the 3 because it actually has a 3 block. So we just played 2 of each of them. I would suggest playing 3 of this card and then find whichever one of these that you feel is important enough to play. With the 7 6 damage move with those 6 and Nourishing Emptiness, it should be enough to stop Prism enough for you to make some sort of comeback. This is something I'm definitely going to be testing before we go to the calling in a couple weekends. And yeah, the reason they're yellow and not the reds is because I want to be able to have 2 of them in my hand and pitch one to hopefully pay for a pump and then a sword swing and do something with my turn here. It is just good enough to try and swing something back at her. But a lot of the time she just gets to ignore my moves because I'm just not putting out enough damage to really intimidate her. 9 damage turns are nothing to Prism because 2 Heralds is 12. Like, why would she care? And she paid what, 3 resources for that? I paid 3 resources for 10 damage. So whatever. She just can race card you way faster. And so there you have it. The card that I'm testing at the moment, I've just replaced these snags and this Out for Blood for blue Dauntlesses. Dauntless was so clutch in the matchups that it mattered, and I think mainboarding 1 blue Dauntless is okay, and having these be Dauntless for the Ninja Dash Bravo matchups is or Katsu Dash Bravo matchups is just good enough. And so there you have it. There's the whole deck. This was 6th place in Swiss. Ended up getting 1st at the Road to Nationals. If you have any thoughts, comments, concerns, suggestions, please let me know down in the comments down below. If you're interested in my lines or my thoughts, or I didn't explain something clear enough, talk to me. Let's have a conversation. I love this deck, and I think I'm not going to be putting it down in the near future, unless something absolutely crazy happens in Tales of Aria, which I do have a couple preview videos. I've given my first impressions of all those cards, so make sure that you check those out as well. But with that, this video has been unbelievably long. Thank you much for watching, and I greatly appreciate you being here, and I wish you well.